Well, hello there, and welcome to the Parenting Show. I'm Jennifer Anderson, co-host of the show. Joining me on the couch, my co-host and parenting expert, Alyson Schafer.
Hello.
Hello. We are very festive today.
Yes. Are you ready for a stress-free holiday, or do you need to heed some advice today?
And I love the topic. The topic is stress-free family holiday. Is there really such a thing?
Well, let's say we're going to reduce.
Okay.
We're going to reduce. It is a stressful time of year,
Yes.
and which is a shame because it's also supposed to be a really celebratory time of year, whether you're celebrating Hanukkah or Christmas or Kwanzaa or however you're doing it, because kids are home. We're usually seeing family of some sort, but there is often the pressure to get it all done. And to get it done in a timely fashion and to make our parents happy and our kids happy and get the shopping and the wrapping and the whole, it gets all very overwhelming very quickly, and we often come out the other end of it going like, I need a holiday from the holiday.
Yes.
So, you know, I think my first piece of advice is for us to just stop and take a deep breath and remember what really is important and not lose sight of that. You know, if the important thing is being with family, do we really want to spend all that time at the mall? If the important thing is that we, you know, want to see people, do we really want to freak out about how dusty our house is because people are coming over and we're worried they're going to judge us? I mean, we could let go of a bunch of stuff, you know?
It's hard to let go for people.
Hard to
and
let
there's
go.
Huge expectations at this time of year.
Yeah. But don't you love going
everything
to
has to
somebody
be
else's
perfect.
chaotic house and just going like, oh, this is actually kind of comfortable?
Yeah.
I give you permission to have a sloppy home and to, you know, have takeout Chinese food instead of a home-cooked meal because you'd rather talk than be in the kitchen cooking.
That
Totally
should be
fair.
the gift.
There's
that
the
should be
gift.
the gift that you are giving friends and family. Of losing the perfection.
Yeah. We have to drop the perfection, do what's important to us. But I think the other thing is that, you know, a lot of us just walk around with some pretty quiet martyrdom. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It is very easy to say, like, nobody understands my plight. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And it's like, well, you know what? I think it would really help if we sat down and made a plan and let everybody else in the family know what's going on. Because a lot of times it's up here in our heads, and they don't know we have 57 things on our to-do list. They don't know that the holidays, it's 3 weeks away. Today was the day that you thought you were going to bake all the pies and put them in the freezer or whatever it might be. So I would say sit down with the family and pull out the family calendar and do some kind of work back schedule. Get some kind of a to-do list happening so people can see what you're up against. And then delegate. You can't believe how hard it is for moms in particular to actually ask for help. I can't do it all on my own. I need other people to help wrap presents. I need other people to, you know, get the table set. I need other people to put up decoration, whatever it might be. We're terrible at that.
But then we finally delegate and we say, okay, you can do that. Oh, no, don't do it that way. That's not how you put the decorations on the tree.
Oh, yes. Busted. You can't ask the children to decorate the tree and then every ball they put on, you move it and put it somewhere. Like you got,
Yeah, you can. You can at 10 o'clock at night.
I am proudly displaying the tree that my children decorated this year. I mean, the thing about delegating is you have to be willing to let go. A good delegator should not micromanage because then you just got more on your plate instead of less. So, you know, you can partner up. You can have the other partner, you know, be an assistant to the kids or whatever. And part of delegating is also not just within the family. It can also be saying, I don't normally pay for a cleaning service, but once a year, it's worth it for me to fork out the money and get that one, you know, cleaning service to just come before I host a big family gathering or something like that. Or, you know, if people are in the snack bracket where they can pay people to put up decorations on the outside of their eaves troughs and save you the hassle, then go for it, you know? You know, delegating. Like I said, I think even Uber Eats and skip the dishes on days where it's like, no, I got too much entertaining coming up. This is going to be one of those times where I cash in one of those gift certificates.
So it was interesting because this week I was talking about doing this show and was talking to a police officer, and I said we were doing a show on stress-free holidays, and he said, I remember one Christmas arriving at a home and the Christmas tree had gone through the front window. And so I know there's very serious situations that exist. We are taking kind of a lighter stance on this, but really it is stressful and it creates havoc
Yeah.
in a home. So, and it can be, mild or extreme, but the bottom line is we all face this, anxiety and perfection and stressors. Even when it's family, even having family, extended family arrive to your home creates these stressors and anxiety for a lot of people.
So it's interesting that we often talk about emotional regulation as being something our kids need to figure out, but it's also something that adults need to figure out. That really, when we think about what is stress, stress is often an interpretation of events. And so
Interesting.
so it's we can decide how the narrative in our head sort of fuels us in terms of like how stressful or unstressful something is. So if you go to the mall saying it's probably going to be really busy and I'm probably not going to be able to find a parking space and I'm probably going to have to line up with a hot coat on, and it probably take me 20 minutes, 30 minutes in line for some of the items that I'm going to want, and you go in and you say, yeah, that's the reality of shopping at Christmas, then your stress level goes down because you're not fighting reality. Fighting reality is when you're going, I can't believe it again, there's no parking spot, and I can't believe I have to wait for this. And it's like, it's a line. Being mad about it, being stressed about it isn't going to make it suddenly get shorter.
No.
So it's like railing at the weather. It's like, or you could change your coat. So we do have the ability to decide not to make mountains out of molehills. We can de-stress by saying, like, letting go of the perfectionism and saying, I don't know if I'm going to have enough food for everybody. Oh well. So that's something you have to practice, obviously. But that's why I'm such a big believer in mindfulness meditation, so that you practice with the small, inconsequential things. And then you work up to the big ones, like the whole mishmash of extended family and the overwhelm of all the things that we're responsible for at Christmas. And you do learn to bring down your heart rate, bring down your breathing, change the critical story that you're saying in your head about how catastrophic everything is, and learn to even laugh about it. Like, I'd like to tell people to think about your extended family as being like scripted for a sitcom. And so, or if you were making like one of those funny comedy movies, because this is a theme of a lot of the coming home for Christmas movies or whatever they're out there, that you make a parody of your own family, and you're like, of course Grandpa's gonna like take his teeth out and put them on the table, and my sister-in-law is gonna say something about my bread pudding, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of laugh at it. Who would you cast? Who would you cast as your brother in this movie? So we have ways that we can mentally work with some of the stressors in our life if we practice it.
Right. Why do we enjoy it in movie form? Why do we, why is family vacation so funny? Christmas vacation, yet we can't live through
in our own.
Yeah.
Well, we can. It's a choice. But yes, we have to practice it. It's not natural for everybody.
So we have some questions
yes.
from our viewers. This
Thank you.
we've been talking about the family. We are spending the holidays with my sister's family. She and her wife parent very differently than we do, and I always end up feeling so judged.
Yeah, so this is what makes me think of the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, nobody can humiliate me without my permission. I think that's what it is, or denigrate me whatever. But the idea is that really it's not something that they're doing to you, it's something that you decide to accept and feel.
Right.
So you could decide that, judgy or non-judgy, this is how I parent, that's how you parent. You can look down your nose, but I'm actually okay with myself. We don't need to, and again, I'm tossing it out like, just do that. Just go do that. These are skills that we have to practice, but I'm saying it gives us some responsibility for ourselves and for our emotionality. And why are we elevating them such that they can judge us? What's that about for us? Now, some people have deep wounds and some insecurities or whatever, and if it comes up and say, this is where we have to lean into where our sensitivities, and this could be the thing that actually is enough to make you open up the door to the counseling office and say, I got some insecurities. I still feel really awful in these situations. I want to get to the bottom of what that is, and you do some personal work.
Right. But some people feel that allowing or just maybe just accepting that this is what's going to happen means that they're permitting it. So, to just ignore the situation, sometimes it's hard for people. And so that's where the reaction, and then when you react, you don't react appropriately. You react
reacting
in the
is never good,
No,
right?
in the heat of
that's
the moment.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of getting your emotional regulation under control is to recognize when thoughts arise, to not be reactive, not do the reflexive thing that's your first knee-jerk reaction, but to stop and pause and to realize that there is a moment between thought and reaction, thought and choice. So it's thought and choice of what would be the best response in this situation that would be a healthy, adaptive response. And so then from that place of being able to find that small window of time, then thinking about what would you like to say and do, rather than going home having like put my foot in my mouth, or oops, I blew up again, and having regrets.
Yeah.
That's what we don't want.
Or like me, 24 hours later, coming back with the perfect thing that
The
you
great
could have
quip.
said.
Yeah. Oh, darn.
Yes. So having it prepared ahead of time
Yeah.
is always better.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, reacting is not a good thing. It's that proactive.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we go, but just to this listener, just so you know that when we go back to our nuclear families, we go back to our original roles in our family. So it's amazing how we may have evolved in every other aspect of our life, but when we go back, I go back to being little Allison. I'm the baby girl, and even though I'm almost 60 years old, somehow I'm 12 again, and there's my big brothers. And we step back into those roles. So a lot of stuff does tend to get a little re-triggered if you've got some unfinished business about your childhood.
Yeah. That's only good when they go, Jenny, you can bring the buns.
Right? You're like,
the
I
youngest."
actually cook other things now. I have a paycheck. I don't need to be.
For years.
Yeah.
Buns and chips.
Yeah.
That was mine. That's the youngest. That's what you get for being the youngest. Let's talk about gifts. My son wants a cell phone for Christmas, but he is not getting one. He is going to be so upset. He is going to be so upset he will ruin the rest of the holiday. How do I manage his emotions and hold my ground on this decision? Now we're getting into the gift.
Yeah, and
area.
listen, it's going to be a tough year for a lot of families, right? COVID really did wreak havoc on people's budgeting, change of jobs, unemployment, like the economy. Groceries are like wicked expensive now. Like a lot of people are going to have a smaller Christmas.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have to pity kids about that. I think we just need to let them know it's going to be a smaller Christmas. If your kids are little, we can explain. Santa's got supply chain issues too. A lot of those elves are off with COVID. He's still coming. He's, he can leave him on the porch. He's not, we got our explanations for our kids, but I think it does help to say some Christmases are bigger, some are smaller. This is going to be a smaller one. And I think by the time, I'm guessing if this child's asking for a phone, he's probably old enough that you could have a reasonable conversation to say, listen, I understand that you're expecting and you're wishing and you're putting little notes under my pillow and you're looking at me with the little sad eye.
Yeah.
But, I know for a fact that that's not in the cards for this year. But I would also say, because she's saying now he's just going to have a stinky mood, you got to know that a lot of kids don't know how to get things or don't have a means to get things without going through their parents. And for a lot of families, that means I'm either getting it for my birthday or my Christmas or I'm out of luck. And so they're really dependent on you. So when you say no, they can really feel that the door closing on their dreams and their desires. So I would try to open the door to having another conversation about, let's make a strategy about how we can get you a phone. That strategy might take another 12 months or 18 months or whatever. But you can talk about putting some money aside or, getting some kind of a payment plan or asking for money donations for your birthday instead of other little gifts, or just getting something creative so that the child feels like you understand, this is their biggest desire, that you're aligned with wanting to help them get there, and then trying to line up what that might look like so that there's a little bit more like hope and support around the whole thing rather than just like the big iron no and you're out of luck.
Right. Well, and we don't know how old this child is. So there's a couple of different options maybe to this, right? One is financial. And just the fact that phones are expensive and they're out of reach. And so it might not be feasible. The other is he could be 8. Yes. Yeah. And I can tell you it was always shocking. I used to co-host Talk to Santa. And I'm just a little complaint here. When you co-host a show with Alyson Schafer, who's a parenting expert, and
I'm up against Santa as your co-host?
Is amazing. I'm saying you are in the category of Santa. People want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear what Santa has to say. I'm just leading us into break and ending the show.
You're like, when is it just the Jen show?
That's right. How can my co-host in life be Alyson Schafer and Santa Claus? Man. So, but it was amazing to me how many kids would call into the show and their Christmas list is laptops and iPads and cell phones and really expensive, the occasional baby sister, but expensive things.
Yeah, childhood is expensive, and that's why, like, I do.
And there's the
feel
pressure
for parents. Yeah. And Santa doesn't necessarily have all the modern versions. Sometimes you got to get used and the hand-me-downs from a cousin, and those should all be considered pretty happy things as well.
Right.
It's definitely a lot more of an expensive venture to be raising kids today in terms of what some of those like basic items are.
But it's also, is it a learning experience or a teachable moment in the holiday season to talk about the gift of an experience or the gift of, something you need, something you want. So I know some people do those certain number of gifts that are different things, or, it just that expectation of one year it's maybe a lean Christmas versus not. Maybe it's more important just to kind of talk about just the real reason and the celebration and what can we do together. And
not lose sight of the fact, to your point, that it isn't just about consumerism, which it can easily go to, and our kids are marketed to more than any other time in history. So their desire for things is higher because they've got images flashing in front of their eyes telling them that they got to look like this and have this, and cool people are doing whatever, and there's a lot of pressure on these kids to be consumers for sure. So going back to that, our opening comment about what's important, what are your values, and remembering that it's the human relationships, it's the experience, it's that making time for one another. And if we race through the holidays and we didn't actually catch our breath and, whatever it is, watch a movie together or have a snowball fight or whatever it might be that your family's doing, it does not have to be expensive. No. Believe it or not, even though social media might show it, not everybody goes to a hot beach. Lots of people have staycations, and they're absolutely fun. The specialness comes from our attitudes, and just saying we're going to have hot chocolate and play a board game together. That's a beautiful experience too. Yeah. You can bet that family that had the Christmas tree go through the window talked more about that Christmas tree than probably what was under the tree that year.
Yeah.
That was the winner. That memory.
Yeah. My kids fight constantly, not mine. This is a viewer question. We have to spend 2 days in a car with them while we head to Florida. How will I survive their constant bickering? Speaking of the sunshine.
Yeah, kids do love to fight in the car. And they do that because you're a captive audience. They know you're watching. And they can do it for boredom, nothing else to do. They can do it because they're trying to make their sibling look bad, so they kind of poke the bear and get the bear to bite them or hit them and then get their brother in trouble or sister in trouble. So I don't know how much time you have, but it would be worth the investment in either, first of all, just prior to the holiday, making an arrangement whereby you lay the law that you won't drive the car if there's unsafe behaviors happening. It's dangerous to be on the road when people are screaming and kicking the back of your seat and things. So just pull the car over every time they fight, and just agree not to drive until they've got it resolved. You can get out of the car, you safely pull over, and walk just far enough away that you're leaving your kids in a safe environment. But if you're not a witness to the fighting, it loses its usefulness, and they will eventually get bored and like bang on the window and say, "Come on, it's taken too long to go to Florida. It's already hard enough to be in the car all day. Now this is making things go slower." And if the kid didn't get in trouble, if the, poking the bear didn't get the desired results, then they learn to figure things out in a different way faster. But to the point about kids being bored, maybe you end up thinking in advance of some things that the kids can do in the car. I might give more tech time in a car than I would normally, or I might get like a little handheld thing where you can watch movies in the back seat. I mean, I might kind of get them something to overcome the boredom. I had one family say they stopped the car in the parking lot. They both gave their kids $50 and sent them into Walmart and said, go buy $50 worth of toys and come back, things that you can play in your seat. And he said that was it. They didn't fight the rest of the time. And they needed things that were novel. They were excited that they had never been, they were like on a shopping spree. Suddenly they were all excited. So you can try something creative like that too. If it's in the budget, think about what they might think is new and novel. My dad used to get cartoons from the like comic books from the gas station. And when we'd start to get a little restless, he'd reach under and he'd start chucking comic books in the back seat. Oh, okay, all right, good.
Just into the cage in the back.
That was back in the day before seatbelts, man. That was a different travel time.
Yes.
So I think trying to work on the boredom and trying to give them something novel that will engage them a little bit more deeply will help, and pulling that car over, and then God bless.
Yeah.
Earplugs?
Yeah. Anything?
Yeah.
Anything? Yes. How do I get my kids to get off their electronics and spend time with the extended family? We are going to a ski chalet, and I want to know what is reasonable for an 8-year-old who really doesn't like skiing and is a lot younger than the other cousins.
Yeah, that's tough, right? Look, electronics is always going to be the default if you let it be the default. There is enough going on with gaming or YouTube auto reel starts or whatever that kid can get that as an easy default. So I think before you go, if you know skiing's not their thing, you don't have a cousin that's your same age, you got this whole day to fill your time, I think you kind of try to schedule, to your point, how do we block in the time that you're expected to be with the extended family? And you might say, look, at dinners and for the hour before whatever, that's when we really need to have our time together. We really need your time and attention. In the afternoon, I know, here's your electronics. I know you love that. That's an easy thing for you to stay involved with. This would be a good time for you to have that. But we need to give them some other things that they can do, whether that is a deck of cards to play solitaire, whether that is a jigsaw puzzle to do on the dining room table while everyone's off at the hills or whatever. But I really don't think it's healthy to expand the tech time to fill every other waking hour that they're trying to self-entertain and not engage with other people.
Right.
They'll work harder to get to know that cousin. People, I came from an intergenerational home where my parents would bring friends up and they would bring kids of different ages, and we had just a rule of inclusivity. So of course we were of different ages and different interests, but we was an expectation that you included everybody, and we did. We found ways to make sure that everybody had some part, some place, some whatever. We figured it out. So if we just sort of rescue kids from solving it by saying, "Oh, you don't know anyone here, or you don't like anything they like, just get on your tech," they're never going to dig deep to solve that problem, and that's a shame. They should.
No, but there is a point, and I've heard you say it many times on different shows. It's totally acceptable to spend 3 days skiing because that's the norm of the family, where the abnormal behavior is the tech, and maybe they just really are. That's their passion.
Yeah.
But it's never looked at the same way. You've done the same as reading, and nobody complains about how often somebody's reading a book.
Yeah.
Yet technology becomes the issue. So it depends on what they're doing.
Yeah, we have a bias. It's true. We have a bias. But again, maybe they don't like, it'd be interesting too, is it that they don't like skiing because they're not as good as everybody else? Is it because everybody's on a different hill and they have to go on the bunny hill? Is it because you actually haven't upsized their snow pants and they're tight and they don't like the feeling when they get wet because they have sensory issues? Like, I'm always curious to find out what a bit of the backstory is.
Right.
Because some of those things are actually solvable. So maybe you say, hey, listen, maybe skiing's not your thing, but what if you came out for the bonfire and we all set out and you come meet us for that part of it, or whatever.
So, and that's a good point too, because you're saying not necessarily, carve out the time for technology. However, it's also asking the question of why. Why don't you want to be a part of this or this or this? And maybe it's because you just don't like your cheeks squeezed, or right? There's a lot of dynamics and a lot of different things that happen during family gatherings and holidays.
Yeah. And to say, so this is, and again, maybe not at the ski chalet, but, even just older kids where you might have an idea that the grandparents are coming and you really want the teens to hang around and have a family meal, just, maybe not the big meal, but just whatever. And they're like, oh, no, I got friends. My friends invited me here. My friends invited me there. If you're only just in the moment saying, hey, I want you to have time with grandma and grandpa, you can't really dictate a teen's time. You know what I mean? Like who are we to like, so I think you have to say, can we talk about what the expectations are? So
Yes.
because most teens are reasonable. If they say, yeah, well, I can do 3 dinners, or I'll do dinner on this night but not that night, or I'll join for dinner the night you're going to the restaurant but not the night you're at home, or just work with them so that there's an understanding that for this holiday to feel nice, I want to make sure that we've got some memories with grandma and grandpa, and I want you to see your friends too. But like, how can we map that out so that it's win-win, best for both, instead of just last minute if someone's got their hand on the doorknob going, I want to go see my friends. And teenagers live for their friends. Sometimes it's, well, I would love for grandma and grandpa to meet your friends. Why don't you invite them for dinner? There's more than one way to skin a cat if we put our heads together and just figure that out. And the other thing I got to say, and I mentioned this in Breaking the Good Mom Myth, you can train your kids to leave you alone too.
Okay. Please.
It's my holiday too. I mean, I was very clear with my kids about, that if I want to have a great holiday, then I like to have my quiet time to read. And so I need an hour every day to sit down and reset, read my book. And if you establish that as an expectation, now you also have to establish, and during this time, I absolutely will be here to play Barbies or, dress up or whatever else you want to do. But I'm allowed to say when I'm available, and I can say when I'm not available.
Right.
And that not available can be time for yourself, the R&R rejuvenation, filling your battery. And it can also be, I'm not available. I've got to, wrap some presents, or I've got to be making some things in the kitchen or doing some prep. I think a lot of times that, when kids see that you're not at work and you're home, they just assume, well, here you are, entertain me, play with me. And that's why I'm saying, I think having those visuals of, nope, I've got all these things to do, or, I'm going to put a timer. When the timer goes off, I got to be finished playing, and then I got to go on to my next thing. So we can punctuate those boundaries a little bit clearer for our little kids so that they understand.
Very good. Let's put Alyson's website up on the screen.
Thank
So
you.
we've run out of time on this show. Lots of information in it, but that's where you can find more information about what Alyson is doing, where you're going. All these topics and more are available on your website.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Have a great holiday.
Happy
Hopefully
holidays.
less stressful now.
Yes, and happy holidays to all of you on behalf of Alyson and I and Rogers TV. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.